Imagine waking up to the shocking headline, Canada just blocked $4 billion of U.S. goods. Overnight, supply chains that stretched across borders, powering industries and jobs, have been thrown into chaos. The White House is reportedly in panic mode, scrambling to understand what went wrong. Markets shudder, investors anxiously check numbers, and ordinary Americans are left wondering, could this escalate into a full-blown trade war? This isn't just another political disagreement or bureaucratic hiccup. $4 billion isn't pocket change. It's a seismic disruption in one of the most stable trade relationships in the world. Yet, the public statements paint a calm, controlled picture, almost reassuring. While behind closed doors, strategy teams are frantically analyzing contingency plans. Contrast this with Canada's position, firm, decisive, and unapologetic. While Washington tries to maintain diplomacy, Ottawa appears ready to assert its interest without compromise. What does this sudden move mean for American farmers, manufacturers, and tech companies that rely on Canadian markets? More importantly, what does it reveal about U.S. vulnerability in global trade? By the end of this video, you'll understand the full implications, from who stands to lose the most to how this decision could reshape international relations and economic strategies. And if you want to stay ahead of breaking geopolitical crises, make sure you hit subscribe, because the world of trade is changing faster than ever, and missing a single update could cost you.
To understand the magnitude of Canada blocking $4 billion of U.S. goods, we need to rewind the clock and examine the broader historical and economic context. U.S.-Canada trade has long been one of the most integrated in the world. Billions of dollars flow daily across the border, everything from agricultural products to high-tech components. Canada is one of America's top trading partners, and vice versa. Disruptions here don't just ripple, they reverberate. Over the past decade, there have been disagreements, dairy tariffs, lumber disputes, and regulatory differences. Yet nothing on this scale has ever triggered this level of alarm in Washington. $4 billion represents not just economic weight, but also political leverage. By halting these goods, Canada is sending a clear message: U.S. policies or negotiations must meet its standards or risk real consequences. Consider the affected sectors. Agriculture, including dairy and grains, accounts for a significant portion. High-tech goods and machinery, critical for both domestic and export industries, are also caught in the crossfire. Each blocked shipment isn't just a statistic. It's a business delayed, a supply chain disrupted, and jobs put on the line. Now, contrast official rhetoric versus reality. Publicly, both governments emphasize calm, negotiation, and diplomatic channels. Behind the scenes, economists are revising projections, companies are recalculating losses, and policymakers are debating emergency measures. The promise of stability clashes with the reality of chaos, setting the stage for a deeper confrontation. By grounding ourselves in these facts and contrasts, we see that this isn't just a financial move, it's a strategic statement, a recalibration of power in North America's economic landscape. And as the next section will reveal, the implications stretch far beyond spreadsheets. Breaking down this move requires looking at both sides of the equation: Canada's motivations and U.S. vulnerabilities. From Ottawa's perspective, blocking $4 billion of goods is a calculated measure. Canada has economic self-interest, political objectives, and strategic leverage. Perhaps it's retaliation for U.S. tariffs, a response to regulatory differences, or a signal in broader international negotiations. Whatever the rationale, the move is deliberate and decisive. Meanwhile, the U.S. faces structural vulnerabilities. Supply chains for critical sectors like agriculture and tech depend heavily on seamless cross-border trade. Disruption here causes immediate and cascading effects: increased prices for consumers, halted production lines, and strained relations with international partners who watch these tensions closely. Let's consider specific examples. Dairy farmers in Wisconsin who rely on exports to Canada now face excess inventory. Milk that would have shipped to Canada now sits in storage, forcing price drops and potential layoffs. Manufacturing plants waiting for Canadian-made components risk production delays, affecting both domestic and export markets. Even broader economic indicators like consumer confidence and market stability can be influenced by this single policy move. Contrast policy rhetoric versus reality. U.S. officials may promise retaliation or negotiations, but trade wars are rarely swift or painless. Each decision has ripple effects. Allies watch closely, investors react to uncertainty, and domestic constituencies feel pressure. The drama escalates because in geopolitics, every action is magnified by perception. Experts warn that a drawn-out standoff could affect not just bilateral trade, but also broader international agreements, such as NAFTA's successor, the USMCA. Companies are now reevaluating contingency plans, exploring alternative supply chains, and lobbying governments for intervention. The micro-level disruption mirrors a macro-level economic tension, showing how a single strategic decision can ripple globally. And finally, consider the psychological dimension. Panic in Washington contrasts sharply with the calm, calculated image projected by Ottawa. Investors sense vulnerability, businesses sense risk, and citizens sense uncertainty. This contrast heightens suspense and frames the story as both an economic and political thriller, setting the stage for real-world impact.
What happens next? The situation is fluid, and the potential for escalation is real. Scenario 1. Negotiated resolution. The U.S. and Canada may enter urgent diplomatic talks. Agreements could restore partial trade flows, though conditions may favor Canada's leverage. Companies may adjust supply chains preemptively, mitigating long-term losses. Scenario 2. Retaliation and escalation. Washington could impose counter-tariffs or sanctions. Canada may respond with further restrictions. This could trigger broader North American trade tension, destabilizing markets and political relations. Scenario 3. Long-term realignment. Businesses may diversify away from Canada-dependent supply chains. The U.S. may incentivize domestic production or seek alternative trade partners. In the long term, this could reshape North American trade networks, creating winners and losers in unexpected places. Globally, other countries watch closely. Allies and rivals alike analyze how the U.S. responds to assertiveness from a historically friendly partner. This influences everything from trade negotiations to defense alliances. Contrast expected outcomes versus uncertain reality. Economists can model scenarios, but geopolitical moves are rarely predictable. Small decisions ripple into massive consequences, creating suspense and urgency for every stakeholder. The audience should now grasp not only what has happened, but also why it matters, to economies, to politics, and to daily life. Canada's $4 billion trade bloc is more than a headline. It's a case study in geopolitical leverage, economic vulnerability, and the delicate balance of diplomacy. Key contrasts emerge: Canadian decisiveness versus U.S. scramble, rhetoric versus reality, short-term chaos versus long-term strategic recalibration. These contrasts frame a larger narrative. Trade is never just about goods, it's about power, perception, and preparedness. What lessons emerge? Policymakers must anticipate vulnerabilities. Companies must diversify supply chains, and citizens should understand the stakes behind the news. Every shipment blocked, every market reaction, every political statement is a puzzle piece in a much larger geopolitical picture. For viewers, the takeaway is clear. Stay informed, pay attention to global moves, and understand how international decisions ripple into your daily life. If Canada can take such decisive action against the U.S., imagine what the future holds for other trade disputes, alliances, and crises. Finally, as this story develops, remain alert and engaged. For more updates on breaking geopolitical alerts, economic crises, and trade conflicts, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the conversation in the comments below. Because in today's world, missing a single update could mean being blindsided by the next major global shift.